I always like to study things with a quote, and today I have all dreams come true if you have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney. And today I have Team Jedrek, who is a pilot, software engineer, and a CEO of Rudder Marketing, a digital marketing agency helping aviation businesses scale and grow. He loves flying planes, enjoys spending time with his wife Danny, traveling, running marathons, learning foreign languages, acquiring new skills like rock climbing, golf, hunting, and ice skating. Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. Pleasure having me on the show here. Thank you, Zivko, for the introduction. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. But yeah, I'm here to answer any questions about, maybe starting an agency or starting a business, kind of I guess the path we took, how to get here. And it's been quite the journey. I'll just keep it at that. I think everyone has their own unique journey whenever they start a business or whenever they start an agency. And, I'm here just to kind of share what I went through. And everyone's different, I think. If there's any take home message here, my story is not going to line up exactly with yours. And your story is not going to line up with mine, but I hope maybe we can glean some insights from each other and maybe we can learn some new things here as well. So.
Absolutely. And the reason why I have you here is because I think yours is fairly unique and it's very different and it looks like it has a happy ending. So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell me how did you start your journey? How did you start and how did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was never in the marketing space. I think after networking with a lot of people that do marketing or digital marketing and agency stuff, a lot of them have pretty long history, a long career. They might have done it even back then with like the newspapers and print ads and media like with the cable and all that stuff. But for me, you can call me an outsider. I was more of an outsider for the longest time. My career was actually in manufacturing, so I started all the way from the bottom. Actually, I worked in factories and food production facilities. I was started as a technician. So after college, you know, I know people now these days are getting paid like 15, $25 an hour, just to start for entry level. But this is less than 10 years ago, like, just about a decade ago, and I was getting paid like 15, $16 just to start. And that was a good wage for after college. Now I'm just like looking at salaries, it's insane. And but the cost of living has also gone up too, so I understand that. But I had just graduated college. I was getting paid $15 an hour to work in the factory doing lab tests, basically. And I kind of grew that career slowly and steadily. A lot of it is you had to get a mentor. So a lot of and that's a common theme I have throughout my career and also throughout my work life is you have to have somebody that shows you the way to the top if you're or wherever you're trying to go. So I was very fortunate. My first year working in the factory, my boss, he was actually not a college graduate. He took him a while to get to the manager level. Took him about 20 years. I think I did it about half. But he was able, he taught me all the things about negotiating and about, running audits, for example. So audits are a big part of working manufacturing, specifically quality assurance, specifically quality control. One of the biggest reasons they pay us is so that we can pass an audit, whether it's a government audit, third party audits, things like that. And I had a really great mentor that kind of taught me how to talk the corporate speak because I think working in W-2 employee type jobs, no matter where you are, whether you're in customer and sales or you're in operations, you're in quality, you're in regulatory, whatever part of the company you're in, especially these bigger companies like Fortune 500 companies that I worked at, there is some type of corporate language and lingo you have to kind of learn, like circle back or follow up, or all these type of things. And he taught me it's kind of like a politics game in a way too, especially once you get to the manager and director level. He taught me a lot of that stuff, and I was very fortunate that he took me under his wing. My first year working in the factory. Factory was actually doomed to close, so like it was if you know anything about the food industry, there's very few big companies that own a lot of little brands. So like Tyson Foods, for example, has it's not just the chicken. They own a lot of different, brands out there. ConAgra is the first I guess industrial complex type job I worked at. And they had like Slim Jims, they have Marie Callender's, they have David Sunflower Seeds. I worked in an egg factory, so I did eggs for a bit. And anyway, they sometimes they sell parts of the business to other people. So ConAgra sold their business, the egg business, to Cargill, which is another huge, if you're ever into the farm stuff, they're a huge conglomerate as well. So they sold that business, the factory that we were in. So I knew I was going to be out of a job within a year. But I took this contract job. It started as a contract, became full time. I took the job because I was fresh out of college, didn't know any better, and had no experience. No one would hire me, so I took the job, and it was doomed to close. And then towards the end of it, I was starting to look for new jobs. And actually, this is not really, I don't really advertise this too much on my personal page, but it is on my LinkedIn technically. So I was looking for a job. I couldn't find a job. No, I had less than a year experience working in the industry. And luckily for me, it's all about networking too. So I'm gonna bring out that mentorship and networking is kind of what got me where I am. One of my childhood friends from like elementary school, he actually, after he graduated, he didn't do science or anything like that, like most of my friends. He did like English or something. And he became, I think, linguistics was his major. Anyway, he became an English teacher in Japan. So they were looking for teachers to come to Japan to teach English. And really all you had to have was a college degree. And I was gonna be out of a job within like 3 months, I think it was. They had given me a nice severance package. I'm not gonna lie. I think at the time it was like 10,000 or something like that, which is a lot of money for like a 22, 23-year-old, you know. So I was like, oh, this is a great package. Just gotta stay here for 3 more months. But this opportunity came by, and it was an opportunity to live in Japan for a year. So I took that. Factory closed while I was abroad. I lived in Japan for about a year, learned the language, had a really great time. Knew it wasn't really right for me. I knew I couldn't really make a career teaching English long term. So eventually I came back to the States. And then luckily, like I said, that network mentorship thing, my previous boss had gotten a new job working at the chocolate factory. And then I got basically a job there as a coordinator. Then from there, became a supervisor at Tyson Foods, then senior supervisor, manager, senior manager, director. And that's kind of what I was doing. That was my main track. And once I got to the top, I've kind of rambled on for a bit now. Once I got to the top, I realized that this is not really what I wanted to do. I mean, I was always trying to be like the boss because I always wanted, I guess, power in a way. I think everyone kind of wants power in a way, and I kind of wanted to, I guess, be successful. Everyone has different definitions of success.
Yeah.
But for me at the time, it was being the quality manager, it was being like the department head, and I got that. And when I got there, I just realized that there was a lot of work, and I didn't really feel that much satisfaction. So there was two things in my mind that was, how to like, change careers, how to pivot. One of them was always, starting my own business. So I kind of had that running through. Another one was actually joining the airlines. So one of the things that I was kind of doing on the side was pilot training. So I had gotten my private pilot license about 5 years ago, and I was continually training for air because after you get your pilot license or pilot certificate, there's not it's still more training. So I know a lot of people say, oh, you only need 1,000 hours to go to the airlines, or or you only need 250 to get your commercial, whatever it is. Um, but for airline pilots, there's a lot more hours involved and there's a lot more training involved. So I started going this route. Maybe I was thinking about switching careers to becoming an airline pilot. And then on the other side, I had that's one sideline I had kind of growing. Just me investing money in training, paying out of pocket. A lot of people take loans. I was paying it cash. I would just say, hey, here's $1,000 for my next week of training. Um, Another sideline I had was I was programming. So I learned how to program in high school, and I liked learning new languages as far as coding is concerned. And then I sold a few websites actually when I was in Tyson Foods. I sold it to a restaurant. So, I think I had another one that was a battle rapper. I had some interior designers. I was kind of just anyone that would take my business that say, "Hey, I could design a website for you." I'd take it. And it was like a couple $100 a project or something like that. It was really nothing, but um, it made me realize that because it was the first time I made money, like actual money outside of a W-2 job. And I was like, wow, this is a real amazing thing. I just remember looking at this check I got. It was a family friend. He made me, he had me design his website for his interior design company. And I'm just looking at this check. It's like $600. I'm like, wow, this is freaking amazing. Because like at the time I got paid like $2,000 a month with or 3,000. I think $2,000 a check with a W-2 job. And I'm like, oh, this is a decent amount of money just out of nowhere. and I knew that it could be a possibility that I could run a business selling websites or software or whatever. So I started that sideline too as well. Anyway, this all these three things were running concurrently. I was growing my manufacturing career. I was trained to be a pilot, airline pilot, and then I also was, selling small websites on the side. And it kind of culminated a little bit when I got to that director level, the senior manager level. Because like I said, there's a lot of politics when it comes to like a W-2 job, when it comes to especially the upper levels of management. If you've ever worked in corporate, especially, yeah, it's a lot of politics. And I got burned. So nothing against my colleagues at the time. I think everyone's trying to play the blame game, and look really good on paper. So I was the new kid on block, and then I got burned, and then I got laid off. So I lost my job, and then I kind of went back to the drawing board. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I really started to kickstart this website design business, um, and then I actually was able to find resources online on as far as how to grow like a website business. And one of the things I came across was Josh Nelson's Seven Figure Agency book. So there's a lot of resources out there for starting an agency. I think it's a very low startup cost. As long as you know how to like create a WordPress site, you can technically get going. Um, Technically, I mean, obviously, if you want to do it better, there's way more tools out there like SEMrush, and you can do way better SEO with your own web design techniques. And I'll get into like the technology we use now later. Um, but I was a freeloader. I looked at all the resources online I could get for free. Like this is a very low cost business, so I didn't want to pay much for hosting. I had everything on like a Linode server. All the websites were on one server. I pay like $10 a month, for like 10 websites. I'm not doing that anymore, but that's what I used to do. And anyway, to go to back to the book, I read this book I bought from Amazon. It was like 10, $20 or whatever. And it just had advice as far as how to start an agency, how to really like do it right. And one of the biggest takeaways from the book was, one, to pick a niche, and two, charge more than $1,000 a month for your service. I think that was kind of the two like what do you call it? Mind paradigm shifts of your brain that I had. Because I was selling to anybody. I was selling websites to anybody that really wanted my business, and it was just really people in my inner circle and maybe in my secondary circle that I could really market to. And it was a struggle because each project would be like $1,000 for a whole website. That's it. No recurring revenue, no nothing. It would just be like, hey, one time shot. And or we had one that was at $150 a month, and that was like WordPress that we maintained. And but the book really changed my life because it was like, hey, this is the kind of the structure you need to run and what you need to do to deliver results to have client retention. So I just followed that book to a T, and really it got me to the point where I was making enough revenue from the business. And by the way, so it was very slow. It wasn't overnight. That was, I think, 2022 around October when this layoff happened, and maybe the shift to like start Rudder marketing. That's kind of how it happened. So the book was like pick a niche. I had this website stuff. I did the pilot stuff. I'm like, hey, let's just kind of combine the two. Rudder marketing is more. I started marketing just to flight schools instead, and then really because I was jobless at the time, I did pick up another factory job working at a flower plant, and I kept working the W-2 job, and I kept growing this website business on the side, just slowly kind of growing it. Finally, we got our first customer around March, I believe, of 2023. And then finally, like a year ago, around September, August, we finally had enough customers. I think it was like four. We had four full paying customers. That was basically a little less than what my take home pay was for my W-2 job. And I was like, well, I obviously would like more money, but this is enough. I really didn't like my job because I was already like growing this business now. And I'm like, no offense to people at the factory, I love them to death, but the revenue from the business was really close to my take home pay, and I was like, let's just go full, let's just pull the trigger. That was one of the hardest decisions I had made in my life, by the way, because basically you're abandoning a steady paycheck for um, whatever this is, for a marketing agency, for whatever you built, and really it's sink or swim. That's kind of what it is at that point. Once you go full time in any business endeavor, without a W-2 job, then you're just sink or swim at that point. That's what I would like to say. So, Yeah, that was a year ago, and then we've just been grow. I went full time after that, and just been growing it ever since. And now we're well on our way. I like to hopefully hit $1 million in revenue within a year or so. So we're getting pretty close. I mean,
It's
it's kind of,
amazing.
I don't know. I skipped a lot of steps. I had a long intro. I skipped a lot of steps, but that's where we are. It's kind of the whole backstory, life story that got me to where I am today.
It's interesting because your story is different from other ones, like you said, because when I started, I graduated from radio broadcasting. I had some exposure to media. So I was doing morning show production. I did social media, I did the posting, but I started to see that radio is not an appreciated medium. It's free, and I can start to see that um, marketing dollars are going towards this thing called PPC because if you want to advertise on the radio, it will be like 50K, 100K, 60K, like big numbers for a small business, as opposed to Google paid ads. All of a sudden, a small business can put $1,000, and this is back in the day when a dollar was a click or 40 cents or
Yeah,
50
that's a
cents. You
lot.
can like
Yeah.
you can do it at that point. And I started to see that it's not going in direction of like the established media, let's put it that way. So it was
Yeah.
that I think 70-80% of people are kind of in like some sort of media exposure already, maybe some design, maybe some like your friend that it was like in linguistics or something like that. And yours is completely different. You were going through manufacturing, you were in these industries that are very stable. They're very stable. Like it's not gonna go down. It's not going anywhere. It's not like radio. It's like very fluctuating and changing. But these industries are growing, acquiring, selling. They're not going anywhere. They're very, very established. And you were in a position where things are very safe, and you got to a really high place. But you still felt like this is not what I wanted. You wanted to have the definition of success for you wasn't there. You achieved the level. You're like, this is not what I thought it was. Like I achieved it, and I feel this is not the definition of success for me. And something interesting that you mentioned there was the politics in corporate. I've been through that. I think everybody has gone through that where um, unjust things happen because it makes sense on paper. Like what you're trying to show and what you're trying to say and what reality is and what is on paper, it's all different, and someone has to be the fall guy. Um,
Yeah.
do you feel like there is a way to change that in a corporation?
I don't think so, to be honest. And I think it even applies to agency owners too, because I think the bigger your agency gets, then you have it's an HR issue. That's what it really is. It's a human psychology phenomenon that happens. Because the bigger you grow your company, let's say it's an agency, that once you get to, I want to say like 5, 10 team members, you're gonna have some politics coming going around there. I mean, it's maybe not as severe as like a Fortune 500 company with thousands of employees, but there's jealousy that occurs. There's, we want to look our best. We want to get that promotion, that raise. You're always trying to look at the good side of, try to be. There's a Chinese expression. I'll also say this. So there's a bunch of monkeys climbing a tree, right? And so there's monkeys climbing the tree, and there's these different orders of monkeys, right? The very top monkey looks down and sees a bunch of monkeys smiling up. Then the bottom monkeys look up, and all they see is a monkey's ass. So, so what I'm trying to say is that everyone's trying to look their best. Everyone's trying to do the thing. So it's kind of inevitable, I want to say, when you're working in you know any type of work environment. I think when you own your own business, you kind of reduce that because the politics are no longer like you're no longer a pawn or a bishop in the chessboard. You are now the king or the queen. So it's a way different like game that you're looking at. But you have to realize even though you're the king or the queen of the chessboard, there's still politics happening at the pawn level or at the rook and bishop level. I don't know if that
It does
simulates
make
too
sense.
much
It
for
does. It
yeah.
does apply, and you see it. Of course, the bigger the agency grows, the bigger the team grows. There has to be some structure and a hierarchy. Now, have you
Yeah.
taken some of the positive structure that you've seen in corporate from your experience and applied it in your agency?
Oh, most definitely. So, well, okay. So one thing we did in manufacturing is called lean manufacturing. So lean manufacturing, if you're ever in, operations, it's like this black belt, green belt, Sigma stuff,
Yeah.
Toyota production system, Kaizen. These are all like continuous improvement models. And what they are is they're different management strategies of how to collaborate with your team to get the most output and also how to create the systems in place to manufacture they call it just-in-time manufacturing. It's really making sure you have all the right materials in place, right when an order comes in. That way, it's just like that. So it works well in the current capitalistic society we have, kind of. So when supply chain issues happen, then that can really disrupt the entire thing. But for the most part, that's what's allowed a lot of companies to be very profitable. But there are these like core fundamental like psychological like management techniques that are used. And I think kind of transferring that lean, Kaizen, continuous improvement focus from a manufacturing business and moving it to an agency or a digital marketing agency is very. We have what's called EOS in the marketing sphere. So EOS stands for Entrepreneur Operating System, and there's different components of it, like making sure you have procedures in place, having the right people in the right seats, um, accountability charts, things like that. These are all things that Kaizen and Lean also emphasizing. Daily huddle. One of the things they have in EOS is like a level 10 meeting where you go over KPIs and stuff like that. KPIs are key performance indicators of your business. So typically for an agency that's looking at monthly recurring revenue, number of clients, satisfied clients, those are kind of the bigger KPIs that we look at. Maybe you're doing PPC, so maybe you're looking at CTR and all this type of stuff and conversion rates. But at the end of the day, it's you have to meet with either if you're by yourself, by the way. So if you're a solo entrepreneur, solo business owner just starting out, you still need to have these meetings with yourself. So I remember I'd have these meetings with myself, and I'd write a Google Doc up saying, okay, this is my KPI meeting for week 10, whatever. And say, okay, this is my P&L, this is how much income we have, this is how much expenses we have. These are the current accounts that we are managing. Here, this is their current whatever they stay in the union for this week for these clients. I had to have that by myself, but even still, with a team, you have to have these meetings with the leadership team or even the entire team, all the technicians as well, because it gets everyone on the same page. And that's also one of the techniques that we use in the manufacturing industry, because your question was, do you take the experience from manufacturing into the agency stuff? And these type of continuous improvement management philosophies still apply in a smaller business that do this. So I would say the biggest takeaway is create your procedures. So I wouldn't spend too much time on it. Just do a couple drafts, and just publish it on we my last manufacturing job, we had this really swagged out document control system where all the procedures were housed. You had like a procedure number, like SOP 1.3.4, that refers to, let's say, how to cook the chicken or something like that. I have something similar, but I didn't have this expensive $100, $200 a month SOP software. I have a Google Drive. So I literally have what's called like the Rudder marketing playbook, and then I have like section 1 is like leadership, section 2 is like deliverables, section 3 is like HR stuff. In each section I have like 10 procedures on like how to do the basic stuff, like how to create a website, create this repo. Here are the certain like sections we need on a website. That way, when I hire somebody, I'm like, hey, read this procedure that we made like a year ago. When you create your next website, based off this procedure. So yeah, creating procedures is one of the bigger ones that I take away from this. Just working from a quality background in manufacturing. Daily huddles or like weekly huddles, something to address KPIs is really good. Accountability. There's other aspects of EOS slash continuous improvement that are out there. But that's the main thing I kind of took away. Then also, I think one of the benefits of working outside of marketing, working outside of because I think there's some also business owners that have never worked a day in their life in like a W-2 job. They've just started the entrepreneur journey. They maybe graduate college, whatever, and then they just do startups. Nothing against that. I think it's a great path. And I do think though, if you do work a W-2 job, a corporate job, or whatever it is, you get exposure to how other businesses run,
Yeah.
especially established. If the business is already making several $1 million or even like billions of dollars a year, you know how these systems work, and then you can kind of apply and take those systems when you run your own business. Whether it's the culture that they create, whether it's the systems they have, the meeting cadences, the reporting systems. accountability, whatever it is that you might have gleaned from working in corporate or wherever, you take that into your own business. And I think any work experience is really valuable. And I'll end with this too. So, we kind of go, we kind of skipped over picking a niche, right? And I chose working with pilot schools. I chose working with flight schools because that's my passion. I love flying. I love, if you've never flown a small plane before, I really recommend just look up on Google flight school near me and book a discovery flight. Go up and go in the air and just see if you like it because it's one of the most like life-changing things. And once you get your license and you realize you have the freedom to go anywhere, you're just gonna love it. But I didn't know. I've never worked a day in my life in a flight school. So actually, one of the things I did when I was in between jobs, I worked for about a month and a half, 2 months working at a flight school. Actually, just learning how they did their systems, how they did billing, how they did reporting, how they charged customers, how they did dispatching, how they did scheduling. I learned how a small, less maybe a $1 million flight school, $2 million flight school, even less, whatever. It was a small company, small mom and pop business, how they ran their business. And then that made me realize, because that gives you a picture of my ideal avatar, right? So I have my ideal avatar of my business owners that I want to work with. I now know what I'm looking for when I'm searching. I know firsthand kind of the problems they're going through, some of the challenges that they see. And I think working in a business that you're serving is really important too. So I mean, maybe not, I'm not saying work for a whole year, just get whatever you need from that. Get if you're working in, let's say, fireplace installers, whatever, then I would get on the ground and start installing some fireplaces for at least a couple months, get to know how the culture is at these type of companies because these are the people you're going to be selling to eventually.
Yeah.
If you're working in plumbing, try to be an apprentice for like a month and see what it's all about before you start doing this internet stuff. So I don't know. I don't know where we went off on that. I'm
Well,
just kind of rambling on now, but
I think it's interesting because when it comes to how you chose your niche, it was very natural because that was your biggest hobby. Like you said, I was just putting a lot of money into that. It was what I love to do the most. I also knew how to do websites. So it was a very kind of like, let me give this a shot. And plus, you had that mentorship and they show you like, yeah, it can work in this and how you can do it. What I've seen in the past is people Googling or ChatGPTing highest revenue potential niche or highest paying it. Like they don't have passion for it, they don't understand it. And like you said, like if you're thinking of focusing on a niche, why don't you go ahead and do the job for a couple of months, at least a quarter or like
yeah.
6 months to understand what's really gonna go, what motivates that person, what are their challenges, what do you think? Because you can start without knowing that. It will just take you a lot longer to understand all of those things. And for me, for example, I stumbled in the niche of accountants and bookkeepers. That was kind of like one of my first ones because I started working with my accountant and with other ones, and I was like, man, this is fantastic. These guys are really seeing the benefit fast because they're local business. Everybody needs an accountant or bookkeeper. Like it's just a matter of level of interest. However, then I discovered from January until May, in Canada, they're slammed because we can do personal
Yeah,
taxes until
taxes. Yeah,
April.
tax season.
So they're
Yeah.
like, no one needs a client. I don't need to do outreach. I don't need to do anything because everything's screeching halt. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, see, I didn't know that side of the niche, and I thought that would be my primary. And then I was like, okay, this is not a sustainable. It's a very seasonal kind of approach. And at that point, I was like, great, B2B service providers. That's kind of like what I will try to help because I can see the patterns. And when you look at that experience, you were very clear. You kind of did the work as well. You did all the right steps. What are some of the things that people should be cautious or the things that you've seen that are the wrong decisions when it comes to picking the right niche?
There's a few things that come to mind here. So I wouldn't say flight schools is the best niche to pick. It's definitely the niche that I pick because it's
Yeah.
where I spend a lot of time and experience in, and it's where I fly. I like flying. If I had to go back, I probably wouldn't choose it. So one of the things I want to mention is the TAM. So TAM is total addressable market. And you think about this, right? So how many of these B2B businesses or how many B2C typically it's a B2C business because B2B does not need as much marketing as you might think. Typically those are built on relationships and whatever. B2C, however, is very, your target customer should be a B2C company because that means they're trying to do just the shotgun approach, basically, of going out to anyone out there doing Google ads, doing Facebook ads, doing SEO. They want to get as many people as possible onto their website, onto their social media, get to know their brand. And that's typically a B2C type company. So what I was getting at is first TAM. So look at the total addressable market. For flight schools, it's a really low number. So in the continental US, there's about 1,500 to 2,000, maybe 1,700 roughly flight schools out there. You really want to multiply that times, like, it's what's called the buyer's pyramid, right? I don't know if you've heard about the buyer's pyramid.
Yeah.
And that's how many people are willing to buy your service at X amount of time. And typically it's at like 3% is like, hey, I'm ready to purchase like right now, right? So let's take my calculator out here. This is 1,500 times 0.03. That's 45, 50 potential clients that I can like really get. And that's a really small number because technically around 45, 50 clients is $1 million agency, by the way, if you're charging $1,000, $2,000 a month. If you calculate it out, which is right, it's kind of right at the limit. It's right. Like if it was anything lower, I'd probably say this is not worth doing it and pouring all this energy in. Contrast that to, let's say, a home healthcare business. So home healthcare, they hire caretakers to take people, older folks into the home, and then they hire caretakers and nurses. There's a lot of agencies that do this. There's like 22,000, I think 25,000 in the U.S. You think about HVAC and plumbing, I think there's like 50,000. Every single city has like hundreds, if not thousands, of different businesses that do this stuff. If you do like fencing or lawn care, those are having such bigger total addressable market. So that your chances of success are much more higher, if that makes sense. There's also a little bit more competition when you consider this too. So higher TAM usually equals higher competition. So let's take this example of home healthcare agencies, right? So I'm sure that there's at least 5, 10 different marketing agencies that are trying to serve this niche. Now, compared to flight school marketing, there's 2,000 schools nationwide. I want to say there's about two, maybe three. We're the number. I think by the way, if you look up flight school marketing, I think we're pretty much on top. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm a SEO like nut because I'm very technical. I did the software stuff. So I made sure everything was like coded. I made sure we had backlinks. I made sure we did all this stuff. And we got to the top pretty quick after about a year, 2 years. But if you delve deeper, there's probably about 2, 3 other flight school marketing agencies out there that I compete with, right? It's part of, I'm not, trying to say it's a scarcity thing. I like to look at things with an abundance mentality. I like to look at things with like, hey, there's enough flight schools, there's enough business out here for everyone to be successful. I think it's right. I don't want to ever like, try to bash another competitor or anything like that. But that's something to consider. If you are working, let's say the plumbing, there's a lot of plumbing marketing agencies out there. So it's a mixture of your TAM and uniqueness, I think is where I would look at. So if you have a high TAM and low competition and a high unique score, fireplace marketing is a pretty good one. I haven't heard of that. I heard that just recently. Like, so I had a friend reach out to me and he's like, "Oh, I'm starting a new marketing agency and we're doing fireplace installations." I think I've never heard of that. It's pretty sick. Another small one was like boating. I don't know if the TAM is big enough for this one, but he's talking about doing marketing services for like boating dealerships. Another one that I'm like, this TAM's pretty small that I would probably back away from would be like skydiving places. So that's like flights. It's kind of associated with flight schools in a way because a lot of them are similar. They're all at airports, and
Right.
skydiving, it's way less than 1,000, I'm sure, like total in the US. So I'm like, you're really kind of, don't get me wrong, if you can get 20 clients, it's like $500,000. It's not bad.
Right.
But it's a lot harder. So yeah, you're asking niche selection is the TAM. So TAM, uniqueness. Last one is the propensity to spend. So does this type of company that you're going to be working for have the budget? Does it have the propensity to spend thousands of dollars on marketing every month? So typically that means, is the business generating is it possible for this business to generate a revenue of more than $1 million all the way to $10 million? That's usually the sweet spot. If you're working, if your niche is typically only making, let's say, $300,000 a year, um, that's probably not a good niche. Like for example, there's a bunch of like art brokers or something like that. They might, or maybe consultants or coaches is another one. A lot of the people that are in these businesses, they might have a high TAM. You might have a lot of people doing it. You might have low competition, but their propensity to spend is not there. They're not willing to spend a lot of money on it. Contrast that to maybe lawyers, though. So lawyers, there's tons of lawyers. Every single city has lawyers, and they have a high propensity to spend. They're those PPC AdWords for legal terms like car accident lawyer. I mean, I'm sure it's $15 a click or something like that if I last checked it. So, um, those are the two kind of odd takeaways I'd put is your TAM slash uniqueness slash competition. That's like, the one niche selection thing there too. Another one is the propensity to spend. Are they willing to spend money with you eventually, at least? And then, third one is your personal experience. It's kind of, we brought that up earlier, is do you have the personal experience or the skills, knowledge, insider knowledge in that industry, in that niche that applies to you? If like you said, you're chat GPT and potential agency niches, and then you say, oh, computer repair people are really good, or could be a good fit. If you've never repaired a computer your damn self, then why are you getting into this? It's like I would recommend something that you have some knowledge of, especially when you're talking to your prospects. If you don't speak the speak, you don't walk the walk, you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. So make sure you know your audience really well. And yeah, I'll end at that. Those are three different like tips I have for picking a niche.
And
It's
it's
very important. I mean, it's not required, but I think it's important to do it.
and I like how you explain it in a very simple way. Like if you take your time in the three, the pyramid, like 30% and 27 and then 60, never heard of you, never knew about it, never thought about it. If you take the 3% of your total addressable market, those are like probably can get those clients. They're looking actively, they're trying to find it. So that's kind of like your realistic, not like, oh, there's XYZ numbers of businesses. No, look at 3% of that because those are probably the ones that you could, if you do reach out somehow, if you get to them, they will consider you. The other ones will be a very long sale. Now, when it comes to, you said in the beginning you were shotgunning, trying anything and everything to see how it works with the closed circle and then kind of expanding it. What are the differences that you noticed in your day-to-day life and in your agency between a generalist versus a niche agency?
I think with the generalist agency, I had to really pivot every single time I got a new client. Like for example, I was doing interior designers, for like I had a couple clients that did that, and I didn't know nothing about interior design. So this designer lady was like, I want my homepage to have like doors where they can choose like this option A or option B, and she's very like, oh, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I could do that. I'm just like, I'm just sales guy. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do it. But then you talk to like a restaurant owners like, oh, just put something with our menu up there. I'm like, okay. So you get these whole different
No, no
like
doors for the restaurant.
personalities. Yeah, you get these complete contrasted personalities, and you try to design something for each of them. You gotta learn the industry. I wasn't doing all this SEO, power stuff like blog posting, backlinks, GMB optimization, headline stuff. I was just creating the website at the time. I didn't know anything about SEO. I was just a purely web design agency. So I just, designed website. Hey, it looks nice. Um, but as you get further into the marketing rabbit hole, you'll realize that you need to have these types of like tools out there, like the SEO, the schema, and if you're adopting all of this SEO practices for, let's say, one vertical, let's say it's restaurants, right? To apply the exact same, I guess, schema, blog posting cadence, SEO headlines, keywords, you have to relearn the entire thing. You have to redo the entire thing for another niche. So you're just reinventing the wheel every single time. So if I went from like restaurants to med spas, I'd have to redo the schema like every single time I got a new client. I think for me, it's just like, hey, what's the existing schema? Change out like this location keyword, but then like revise like the description by like just two, 3 words or something like that. Change out locations roughly. But keep most of the services the same. I mean, it's not rockets. It becomes more scalable. It becomes more easier. And then on top of that, if you're always switching around, you have a hard time selling. I mean, it's I'm not much of a sales guy, to be honest with you. I'm more of a here's the product, here's the offer, you take it or you leave it. I mean, that's kind
Right.
of where I'm at right now these days. Um, but if because like I said, I'm not a pushy sales guy, but for if you're always switching gears to different niches, you're gonna have to have a really good sales personality. You're gonna have to have a really good sales pitch, to be able to convince. Let's say you're doing lumberjacks or something, I don't know, but you've only worked with plumbers. You're gonna have a hard time convincing this lumberjack guy to work with you just because you have experience doing plumbing, compared to if you worked with all these forestry teams and whatever, and you have 10, 20 clients that I've done in the past, you just come off as more authoritative, and then you can specialize even further. You can write a book, for example. You can do podcasting and webinars. You can really create this audience specific to that niche, if you choose to do a niche. So that's kind
Now,
of my takeaway as far as the differences between the two.
on the other side, you do hear this quite often, and I think some people do make that mistake. What do you say to someone when they say, "Look, if I pick a niche and I'm in it for the long run, eventually I feel like I will cannibalize it." How do you prevent from cannibalizing completely your niche?
What does cannibalize mean?
You reached out to everyone, whoever said no, you kind of reached out two, three times, and now you start to develop maybe bad rep because the ones that
Oh,
work with you, they work with you, but the other ones you've reached out like so many times, they've seen your ads, they maybe talk with you, but you're not the right fit. They start saying like, "No, I know that agency, like don't work with them," and start work. And because you basically kind of hit the TAM, you reached out to everyone, you talked with most people, you've been doing it for like let's say 7 years, and it got to the point where like I don't know where I can find new opportunities. There's not a lot of new businesses popping up in the niche that I've selected, and it got to the point where you feel like you've cannibalized it. Like I don't know how to expand anymore into this TAM.
well, I think you as a business owner is gonna know when's the right time to pull out. There's no one else can give you the best advice. I would say after a year you've tried it, doesn't work, I'd say pull out. I think a year is enough time to kind of test the waters, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
That being said, the best kind of medicine for this is prevention, right? So how do you prevent, I guess, bad reputation? That's the core question I hear. And one, it's delivering the best results. So you don't want to be a mediocre agency. You want to always give the best results. How do we give the best results? Make sure that you are doing SEO right. If you're doing just ads, make sure you're doing the ads right. Are they getting clicks? Are the leads are getting trashed, or are they actually good leads? Or do you have your negative keywords produced? This is not an easy game. You just can't pay some white label dude to come in and do everything for you. Um, you have to be able to create the best products and services for your customer. So really, there's two components to this. There's the deliver results part.
Mhm.
So are you delivering the right results? Are you doing it 100%? Are you following the best practices? Are you keeping up with industry trends? Like, for example, if you're doing PPC search ads, are you also doing local service ads? Are you also doing YouTube ads? Are you also doing negative keywords? Are you also doing ad groups? Are you also doing geographic targeting? Have you done split testing, A/B testing? Have you looked at your CTR, and have you looked at your CPC? Have you tried lowering those rates down? Have you tried installing ClickCease? These are all just different techniques I've used in the past, but if you haven't gone down the rabbit hole and you're just white labeling it off and saying, "Oh yeah, I did it for you," but you can't speak to it, then you're going to not deliver the best result, right? So one, deliver the best result, and two is customer service. So customer service is all about the relationship of you as a company to the customer, right? Um, and how do we address that? One, quarterly gifts. Are you sending out gifts to them? Are you sending out onboarding packages? Are you sending out, your swag? You have like, I send a lot of my flight schools like, like a mouse mat, for example, t-shirts, um, whatever it is, gifts and stuff. Monthly meetings. You do the monthly KPI meetings. You meet them in person, ideally. I try to meet all my clients in person at least once a year, if that, whether it's through a trade show or me flying out to the airport. Um, Customer service is really important. Are you responsive to their texts, to their emails? Because there's two reasons. There's one main reason why a client will leave you and give you bad reputation, right? It's because of what's called perceived indifference. You can be delivering the best results, but if they feel that you're not really giving the best service and you don't really care, you're too busy for them, they're going to drop you like a fly, you know? So, um, prevention is key, right? Those are the two kind of takeaways to damaging to prevent cannibalization
Right.
of your agency. I guess the next step here too, maybe your niche wasn't correct, right? So, you know, I had a guy I was talking to, another agency owner, and he had done MSPs. MSP stands for Managed Service Providers, which are basically tech companies. So they install like Windows and like Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace in small businesses. They do like the LAN cables. They do maybe some DNS configuration, set up a printer maybe, you know. And he, this guy had been working in this niche for about a year or 2 years, and he was just having such a hard time with sales because a lot of these people also offer website design services too. So they're like, I already know what you guys do. We don't need your SEO work. We don't need your PPC stuff. We're fine, you know. So he had the hardest time selling. Might have been a good niche to get into, but it just wasn't right for him. And it, you know, I think, you know, know when to pull out. You know, just make sure your pull out game is strong. But no, I focus on a year. Focus on a year. If you can build it in a year and you know it's not worth it, then don't do it. Last tip here, I know we're kind of running out of time here, is when you're first starting out, you know, don't even try to sell your services. Don't even try to sell your product. Just get to know them. You know, try to get them on a phone call or visit them in person. Say, hey, can I come to your job site and let's check it out? I mean, I'm thinking about opening a business that serves this. I just want to, you know, shoot the shit with you and get to know the industry a little bit better. And then just see if they can even do it for free. You know, I was actually willing to do my first client for free. I did not actually, but I was willing to, you know, I was definitely willing to. I was very fortunate I was able to get $1,000 package out of it, but um I was willing to work for free when I first started, you know, and it just really was supposed to be the ideal setup if you've never really have any experience in the niche is you attend these BNI meetings or you attend the Chamber of Commerce meetings, you get to network with these people, you're able to kind of get a one-on-one meeting with them, whether it's on Zoom or in person, see the job site, see how they actually work. And then your pitch is, hey, I want to really try this business. Can you be my guinea pig? I'll do it for free, whatever. And just knock it out the park. You know, knock it out the park, do a great job with the website design, do a great job with the ad running, whatever you do. And then after about a month or two, you get a case study from them. You do an interview, you put it on your website, then you just start marketing like hell.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That's the
the
steps, right?
yeah, that's the steps. Yeah, because you can either pay a lot of money for marketing and sales, or you can do it for free. The cost will kind of come out to be the same because then that is a huge value driver on your website, and a lot of people can see it and read it. And
Yeah.
it does the ROI is there. You might not feel it in the moment, but those video testimonials and those case studies that if you're willing to do one or two for free, then it's very easy when you have the next call when you can show it and the person is you know, really amazed by all the stuff that you've done. But I think those are fantastic advice that you gave us, Tim. Thank you for the time. You were very detailed with a lot of stuff, and I loved it because, there were some interesting things that I never thought of, the way that you're looking at it, the way that you guys are doing it, and to see that growth, it's inspirational to be like, look, you can definitely do it. It's not like an overnight thing, but take Tim as an example. Take thousands of people as an example. If you start and you understand it's not like a overnight thing, do what you love. Find a niche that you're passionate about already. Don't just pick one because it's the one that Google said so or whatever. And deliver great results. Meet the people. Do all the right stuff, and you can definitely develop and grow a business. Now, tell me, if people want to get a hold of you, how did they do that?
So if you're a flight school, yeah, I want you to check out RedRudderMarketing.com. So Red Rudder Marketing, it's you know the company that I work with. We work with flight schools all across the nation, even international now. So we have some flight schools outside the US too that we work with. So we're just a continually growing agency. What we do is it's not really, we don't focus on just, you know, website design or ads. We really want to create the best package. We call it the flight school marketing system for aviation businesses and flight schools. So check out redruddermarketing.com, download our resources, schedule a call with me on the website. You can also call me personally, 314-358-2100. If you're just an agency owner or maybe a B2B business and you're looking for some tips and just want to network with me, you can check my personal website out. It's timjedrek.com. That's TimJedrek.com. And yeah, you check me out on Facebook, LinkedIn, social media, Twitter, whatever it is. I'm on all of them, So check me out there, and I'm looking forward to networking and saying hi to you. If you need any tips, if you need any advice, if you want to work with me, collaborate with me, I'm always open. I'm open. I'm an open book. So holler at me. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Tim. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for this, and all the best to you.
Yeah, thank you, Zivko. I really appreciate being a guest on your podcast, and until next time. So see you around.